Hi everyone. My name is Jerry Wise. I'm a life and relationship coach, and I've been helping people for over 45 years to gain greater self-differentiation in their recovery and in healing marriages, families, and individuals as well. I hope you'll join this channel. I hope you'll subscribe to this channel and click the bell for the newest videos that you can receive when they come out. I also have 3 workshops available at this time on my website. And if you watch all 3, you'll have a mini masterclass that I think you might really enjoy. This video and this subject is healing from family alienation. Family alienation is a silent pandemic in our society. It is very common, very, very common, and in fact, more common than you might realize. And it is a big source of pain, hurt, fear, and loneliness for those who experience being alienated from their families. Dysfunctional families have a hard time staying connected with all members. They either want to fuse together or mesh, or they push each other away to get greater distance because they may fear closeness. And then they feel pain when there's too much distance. And dysfunctional families are not able to have that kind of stability. Often, families do not have the emotional maturity and clear-headedness to tolerate differences and to avoid reactivity. And this creates alienation. If we can't have a stable relationship, if I'm not clear, if I'm not emotionally mature, then oftentimes there are triangles, maturity detours, as I've talked about in other videos. And this then forces the family system, by its dynamics, to push someone out or to push members out. Also, if you have a narcissist or borderlines or counterdependence, who lie or project or are selfish in the family, then it can be very difficult to maintain a calm, stable, and warm connectedness with the family. So what do I mean by alienation? Alienation occurs when a person withdraws or becomes isolated from the family and from themselves. And oftentimes when we are alienated from a family, we often experience alienation from ourselves. What are some of the symptoms of alienation from family? Feelings as though there's something wrong with me, loneliness, anger, hurt, feelings of rejection, feeling distant from others and estrangement from others, even in the other parts of our lives. We can often feel estranged from our own feelings. We can feel helpless. We have feelings that the world is empty or meaningless, feeling we have no purpose. And then I thought of another one, feeling in which there's no good future, that the future is hopeless. Feeling left out of conversations or events, feeling separated from everyone else, having difficulties approaching and speaking with others, especially family members, of course, and feeling unsafe when interacting with others. And that can even include our nuclear family, our spouses, our partners, our children. With family alienation, we often tend to feel a couple of things: powerless and estranged from ourselves. Now, there can be many causes of family alienation: emotional estrangement, cessation of communication, experiencing a cold war with our family of origin over conflicts or hurt feelings, miscommunication, misunderstandings. Most of the time, alienation, except when there are, let's say, mental illness involved or severe cluster B type of personality, cluster B psychiatric disorders, such as narcissism, borderline, etc., sociopathic. And I think there are a lot more sociopaths in families than we might realize. We do talk about narcissism and BPD, borderline, but there's a lot of sociopathic. No conscience, no empathy. They just do whatever they want. And it doesn't bother them either way. They can be very manipulative. And apart from those, when there's alienation, I find that often the alienation is either over a misunderstanding, a projection, and oftentimes the circumstances don't warrant even an alienation. And I'm going to talk about why that might be. That if somebody, I'll give you an example of a possible alienation. A sister has a baby shower or bridal shower or something, and another sister cannot attend because maybe they have an ill child or ill husband or whatever, or something, or it was difficult for them to come travel-wise and things like that. And then the sister who's having the baby shower, wedding shower, whatever, she decides, oh, well, you're just rejecting me and you can't even make it for that. Now I'm going to not talk to you anymore, and I'm going to do the silent treatment, or just now you have spoiled our relationship. And now a cold war begins over that. And again, there may be very good reasons why the sister could not attend the event, but that's not accepted, that's not understood. It triggers the original sister who's having it triggers her, and then she starts this cold war. And I think oftentimes when you unpack those kinds of alienations, it's kind of like, really? We're going to have a cold war over, I just couldn't attend one event? Or somebody doesn't go to Christmas or some holiday or something like that. And then again, there's alienation as a result of that. And I think that's, oftentimes I find those are painfully unnecessary reasons for alienation. Now, what I've also found is that it's not about the reason, because we're not looking at the cause. The reason is you didn't come to my bridal shower. I'll talk to you more in a minute about what might be the cause of that. Because if you look on the surface, it's like, okay, I'm sorry, sis, you can't come. I really wanted you to be here. I'll miss you not being here, and it would have been great to have you here, but I love you anyway, and I understand. Or the other sister says, I'm so sorry I can't come because, my husband has the flu, and, I got to watch the kids, and et cetera, et cetera. And they're apologetic or whatever, and it seems reasonable what they're doing, and both see it as reasonable. When there is latent family emotionality that is reactive and also reactive to the past, and I'll be talking about that, then that can trigger an alienation. And it's over almost nothing. You picked up my phone and looked at the front of it. Why were you looking at my pictures? I wasn't looking at your pictures. I just happened to see something on there and I looked at it. Oh, well, and I've even had people be alienated from their family and from a sister over that, just looking at a phone. And she had no malicious intent. There was no, she just happened to see something that was interesting. And she thought, now, is that my sister's phone? Just kind of picked it up. Her sister walks in, and now it's we're off and going, and now we got to have a Cold War over that. And then that becomes the issue for the next 5 years. And again, you can see it's a tempest in a teapot, but it still seems like a tempest because it's not about the tempest. It's not about the phone. And I'll be talking about that. So some common reasons that we talk about for alienation are, well, there's mental illness, there's a narcissist. Okay, makes sense. That can be difficult. Narcissists will alienate people who don't go along with them, whether it be parents, siblings, if they're not very empathetic at all, and so they will alienate family members who don't get on board. There can be emotional abuse. There can be differing expectations about family roles and family rules. And if you don't dress up like everybody else is dressing up for the whole family, extended family photo, then you will be alienated. There can be clashes based on personality. One person tends to be a little more negative. The other person tends to be a little more positive, and we have a personality clash. And then that can create alienation. Or value system, religion, politics, morals, that can, so social issues that can cause family alienation as well, or be a reason for it. And then neglect. There can be neglect that goes on in a family where parents or a parent or both, just kind of ignore and just are not attentive or nurturing to children or to their child. And there can be alienation as a result of that. And there are more, but some of these are the common ones. And these are what I consider reasons, but they also can be considered symptoms and not the root causes of family alienation. And you say, well, what do you mean by that? Isn't the reason that we're arguing is because my sister thought I was looking at her phone? I'm going, she's going to have a Cold War with you over you looking at her phone? Now, I'm not saying she's not presenting it that way. She certainly is. And that's the context that's being presented. I just don't think it's the real root or cause. It's a symptom of a problem in a family. And that's where it gets so frustrating, because we look at it and go, this symptom is just not worth alienating from each other for 5 years. It's just not worth that. Why are we doing that? But it seems to make sense to one or more family members that, no, that's absolutely, you'd do the same thing if it were you. If I picked up your phone and looked at it, you'd freak out and wouldn't want to talk to me for 5 years. And again, I don't believe it's the root causes of family alienation. So what do you mean, Jerry? You asked, these family systems these are family symptoms of what? What's underneath there? Let me give you an example. We'll talk about Jenny. Jenny is alienated from her mother and her female siblings. Jenny's great-grandmother was abandoned by her father when she was 7 years old. Jenny's mother's parents were divorced when Jenny's mother was 6 years old. Jenny's father left her mother for another woman when she was 10 years old. Jenny's mother and sisters have scapegoated her and alienated Jenny from the family over her lack of religious beliefs and her political beliefs. Her sisters and her mother are hyper, if not toxic, religious and are very conservative. Jenny feels more comfortable with a more liberal politics and more liberal spirituality. But that is the cause célèbre, or that is the reason why we need to be upset with Jenny. because she just, believes the wrong things and should not be trusted in her thinking and etc. We cannot tolerate those disagreements in our family. Now again, the reasons I just stated are the stated reasons by Jenny as to why she is alienated, and her kids are alienated as well. She goes, hey, my mom and siblings are just so conservative, religious, if not, again, hyper-conservative and hyper-religious, that anybody who veers from that, they just are so upset with that. And it creates this rift, and it creates this alienation. And oftentimes in families, when there is alienation, there is a dual experience in the system, fusing and expelling. So the sisters and mother fuse together to expel Jenny. And again, it's a loop, so it's all happening in a feedback loop. That fusion and expelling. And so we've got the cabal over here, and they're overly close. And then we've got Jenny over here, overly distant, because that's all we can tolerate. And I'll be talking about that. Because when you have this overfusion, and then Jenny gets expelled, this overfusion is about feeling safe, and it dispels and reduces anxiety, fear, and lots of other things I'll talk about in a minute. And so Jenny's over here. She feels alienated. They're all on the same page. Their uniting is often about fear and anxiety. That's what this uniting is about. And Jenny is pushed out because she doesn't want to join the cabal. She doesn't want to join the circling of the wagons over here because she doesn't agree in the same way with them or doesn't want to. So are these the real reasons or the root reasons? In other words, she's just too liberal. She just thinks differently than us. Or how she looks at money or kids or, whatever the issue or the symptom might be. I have a hunch that Jenny is alienated from her family because she will not join the family super self. And this is a whole super self. Well, there's still a super self going on even if Jenny's out here. But because this is a function of that super self too, by being way out here. And I'll talk. That super self, and often dysfunctional families have a self, and they all participate in that self, and we call it the super self, because there's not differentiation going on, and there's no room for differentiation. So she will not join the super self and remain enmeshed in the family as a protection against their fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, fear of being wrong. And in fact, it will become so difficult and so mystifying, and there's so much blindness going on that Jenny has said that even her family is blaming me for rejecting them. And that's where the projection comes in. They're all rejecting her, but they're blaming her for rejecting them. And it can go to that level. But Jenny's family has had generational abandonment, transgenerational abandonment, rejection, and alienation. And so with all of that heightened anxiety and heightened fear, they cannot tolerate having somebody be different. And so they all fuse together to feel safe and not anxious with each other and to feel secure. And nobody's going to abandon anybody because they're all stuck together. So you feel a lot more comfortable. Nobody's going to leave this little cabal because they know if they do, they'll be treated like Jenny. So everybody is very much wanting to, oh, I feel so safe now, but the cost of this is to push Jenny out. And that's the cost that we pay. And that's too high of a cost, in my opinion. And so they stay safe by keeping Jenny out there because she just thinks too differently. And she's rejecting me, which I fear. And oftentimes, as I've said many times, what you fear is probably already coming upon you. She's just rejecting our views, rejecting our values, rejecting us. And we can't tolerate that because we can't tolerate the differences. So we keep Jenny out there. We keep us all in a cabal and enmeshed. With all of the surface reasons we talk about, well, it's about politics. It's about liberalism. It's about social issues. It's about politics. Whatever is she looked at my phone. Whatever the reasons we give and we talk about, we ruminate about, we try to understand, we spend lots of time, well, why did they think that way? Why is she thinking that way about the phone? Isn't that ridiculous? I don't know why any normal person would be so reactive to someone just picking up their phone, just looking in front of it. Why is that so sensitive? Excuse me. We often miss the wider picture of the family as we zoom out and see from an astronaut's point of view that, hey, this has been brewing for 1, 2, 3, 4 generations. The fear of abandonment, the fear of rejection, the fear which pushes everybody together or pushes some out in the family. Seeing from this point of view could make a big difference in the way forward for Jenny. I think of in helping folks, and this is a very simplified view, you need to talk to a coach or someone to help you or a therapist to help you in guiding you in your strategies for family alienation, such as she could avoid religion and politics and continue to be steady and loving and connecting with different people. And again, it depends on how dysfunctional the family is. I understand that. And how they may be mean or those kinds of things. But if there's some tolerance for continued connectedness, the more this cabal feels safe, the more they can break apart from each other. And so, again, that gives you some ways forward in, it's not about politics and religion. It's about feeling safe and feeling accepted. And, it's just we've gotten this issue as the cause. Alienation symptoms in families can function as a result of intergenerational life and transgenerational transmission of the emotional field families experience. So this alienation has 2 or 3 generations as its beginnings. And the more we see in a wider way, the more calm we can be. And also the more we can see it's not as personal as we think. It's a function of the system, not a function of my sense of worth or value. Families can experience these alienations because they have an allergy to intimacy or closeness. There's been a lot of abandonment, a lot of broken relationships, and then there's intergenerational trauma that can occur, that can really be problematic for families. I've already talked about personality disorders, fear of abandonment. There's often a lot of borrowing and loaning of self in those previous generations. The family's super self gains self from exiling a member of the family. In other words, there's not enough self here. It's a big super self, but nobody has their own self. They're all connected to the super self. And so for us to gain some self, we have to exile Jenny. Because then we feel better about what we're doing and how we feel, what we believe. And whenever we have to feel better at someone else's cost, we're borrowing self from them. The alienated child or adult child can loan self to the family by giving up and staying the exiled one and feel the accompanying pain as a victim. The alienated adult can borrow self from the family by pursuing the family and being the healthier one who is right and not the family who is wrong. And again, that's another kind of unhealthy position to have while pursuing the family. And we can borrow some self from that. Well, it's just too bad they're not as mature as I am. Acting out family drama from generations previous, again, is another part of, it comes out in symptoms, but the family is acting out previous drama. And I think in Jenny's case, there's a more direct connection to that. The family is exiling her because they do not feel safe enough, because of previous generations' abandonment, being adult children of divorce, adult children of divorce with affairs, and adult children of being left and abandoned. There's not enough safety to allow someone with some difference to be a part of this group. And there's not enough self-differentiation, not enough self there. What can we do to recover our feelings, our beliefs, and actions if we find ourselves in an alienated state? First of all, I'd recommend get some coaching. You could probably move forward a lot quicker if you do that. But that's not the only thing. There are good books. There are good videos that you could watch. Many people have watched my videos and have gotten a lot of good coaching from them. Stop pushing or pulling. Stop pushing the family or pulling the family. Stabilize or center yourself. Number 2, calm down. Keep working on calmness. And as I mentioned in the video that I have, that's about an hour and a half, called Calmness is Everything, I would recommend you watching it. It talks about family systems anxiety and non-calmness in the video. Staying calm can help you function more maturely and not just as a result of these unseen forces that you're not aware of. Thirdly, stop indulging your anger, frustration, and hurt and rehearsing those over and over and over again. These feelings only hurt you. I'm not saying you shouldn't feel your feelings, but what I found is that for these 5 years, let's say Jenny has been angry, hurt, etc. for 5 years. Now, wait a minute. That's not worthy of being hurt and angry for 5 years. I can understand feeling angry or hurt if you are alienated from a family. But by feeling those feelings, it does nothing good for the family. It doesn't help you function better with the family. It's often a defensiveness. If I stay angry and hurt, then I'll never let them hurt me again. But you end up hurting yourself to buy you the future of not being hurt again. And we don't want that bargain. We want to not rehearse those feelings over and often system feelings, guilt. And then we'll feel guilt. Well, I'm not all connected with them. I don't believe the same way. Now I feel guilty that I don't believe the same way that they believe. Or I feel guilty because I did pick up the phone, but I had no malicious intent or anything. But I shouldn't have picked up the phone. And I feel guilty and continue to feel guilty. So we don't want to indulge and rehearse those over and over again. Reduce your pain by working on false beliefs. If I remain alienated from my family, I will never be able to be happy. I'll never be able to be accepted or loved or whole or satisfied. Those are false beliefs. Or that if I don't have a family of origin, I'll never be happy. I'll never be able to be fulfilled, have a good relationship, etc. That's not true. There are many people who do that. Embrace the grief. It's okay to be sad and grieve the loss of the family you had hoped for, wanted. That's reasonable. But again, we don't want to rehearse the grief for 5 years, 10 years. Do the grief work so we can get beyond it. Stop focusing on the family. And 7th, focus on your own efforts differentiating from the family and becoming more calm, becoming more mature, becoming more neutral, becoming more accepting. We also want to stop the if only they would do this, or if only I would have done that. That's past regrets or desires. Well, if they would just be accepting of my views, then we could all get along. Well, how helpful is that to have that discussion? And we have that in our own heads and we obsess about that. If only they, why don't they? Start the what do I need from me? And that's very important. Don't exile yourself from yourself. And this is really where the pain exists. Because often when we are exiled from the family and we're over here, we have a lot of self-exile and alienation we are doing. And now we have a double alienation. I'm alienated from the family, and I'm also alienated from me. That really hurts. I would suggest, number 10, watch my scapegoat video. There's a couple of good scapegoat videos that I've made. Not every alienation is a scapegoating, but scapegoating does often involve alienation. Change how you see yourself in your family. Change the alienation based upon your role. Use what you know about your role in the family, golden child, scapegoat, lost child, mascot, enabler, whatever role, the angry one, the problem child, whatever role we might see ourselves, and we can use that role as a way to change how we interact with the family who has alienated us. Because that's where we want to grow up and grow out of that role. They don't have to change that role for you to grow out of it. That's the good news. Again, the alienation and estrangement, get that alienation and estrangement out of you. For you and for your future generations. The healthier you are, the healthier those who follow will be. There'll be less alienation generations future if we deal with the alienation now and our own maturity. Certainly accept your crazy family. You have to accept that they're crazy in this and they're doing that. You're crazy too. That's okay too. But I didn't say be a victim to your family of origin. I said accept where your family is. That's different than being a victim. Remember, what you fear is probably already happening. Well, if I go, interact with these people, then they might reject me. Well, you're already rejected out here. I mean, it's already happening. So what have you got to lose? And again, if they're too unhealthy, then it can be problematic. But some families you can work with making a change in that alienation of the family. Face and heal your neediness and fantasies, the neediness you have to have the family you always wanted, and the fantasies that you've had that you'd have the Hallmark family, or the neediness, well, if they don't love you, then I can't be loved. No, that's your own neediness. That's not true. You can be loved without your family loving you. That can be learned and experienced. We also can build another recovery family, support groups, church groups, friend groups. We can build another recovery family. And I've said, if some people who put as much energy into relating to others as they have wasted trying to be accepted by their family and worrying over their family alienation, they would have 100 supportive friends. Because we put an awful lot of effort often into alienation. Do your grief work over the loss and cultural norm that the family should be there for you and will be there for you, and you need them to be there for you. Begin by accepting your unreadiness to let your family go. If you're not ready to let your family go, then be there and embrace it. And I will suggest to people, write it down. I am not ready to let my family go. And be right there, accepting yourself, and then you may find that the knot can be undone. Work on accepting the truth that we can be happy without our family of origin. Because if you can be happy without your family of origin, you'll relate to your family of origin differently. And you won't be the victim of the family dynamics that you would be if you felt you couldn't be happy without your family loving you or accepting you. You would change those dynamics because you'd already be neutral, and that would change how you interact. Well, I hope that you will subscribe to this channel. Please become a paid member of the YouTube channel. Just for a couple of dollars a month, it would really help to provide free videos for you. I want to thank you for joining me today. I do have 3 workshops available to rent or buy on my website, www.jerrywise Relationship Systems. I want to thank you for joining me. Have a great day and be wise.